Welcome to Fortune Forecast. I am Daisy, your hostess, and you are in my book playlist, where we've started on a book titled The Heart of the New Thought by Ella Wheeler Wilcox. If you landed on our channel at this video, welcome. We have the other chapters in the book playlist. And to our Fortune community, welcome back. If you're eager to get started, please go to the description and hit the timestamp to the next chapter. Otherwise, stay here with me for a minute as I go through my narrator's comment. I loved how we could sense the poetic influence of this author when she adds this beautiful rhythmic lines in the chapter titled Opulence, and it starts off with, "You never can tell what your thoughts will do in bringing you hate or love. For thoughts are things, and their airy wings are swift as a carrier dove. They follow the law of the universe. Each thing must create its kind, and they speed over the track to bring you back whatever went out from your mind." Wow, that is such a beautiful way to use nature to describe thoughts and their attributes. I loved it. And as I mentioned, this author does not have an ABC style of how to accomplish anything, yet there is a very whimsical and loving approach in her philosophy of the heart of the new thought. And she brings off by saying how important to appreciate the gift, to learn to enjoy the present, and to get out of it everything you can by visualizing or thinking that today is a piece of eternity. Man, that was like words on a canvas. I could almost feel the intensity and the beauty and the holiness of these words. And to teach ourselves the appreciation of that present moment, which will then be able to help us enjoy heaven because we have learned to enjoy earth. And dabbled throughout those last chapters were great nuggets of affirmations that we can make our own. And also in a very light way, she encourages self-analysis, and that soon we may find that most of the unhappiness and unwellness might be due to a different type of thinking that is disagreeable to a good health and a good life. Ella Wheeler Wilcox encourages the uses of affirmations with a quick reminder that we must keep following the quote-unquote recipe for happiness, good fortune, and reminding that if we drift back to a different state that brings us to anger and fear and all gloom and that nothing's good, that we must be focused and say our affirmations over and over. And if we're not thinking it, then we should be living it. In a way, she's trying to say, don't just think, make the effort. Let's head into the next chapters. Literature. The world is full of new thought literature. It is helpful and inspiring to read. It is worth many dollars to any who will live its philosophy. I talked to a man who has been studying along these lines for some years. "I know all that philosophy," he said. "It is nothing new. I am perfectly familiar with it." Yet, this man was continually allowing himself to grow angry over the least trifle. He was quick to see and speak of the faults in others. He was demanding more of those he associated with in the way of consideration and justice than he was willing to give, and he was untidy in his person and improvident in his use of money. Now, it is the merest waste of time for this man to read new thought literature or practice deep breathing, since he will not put into daily and hourly practice what is taught by the new religion. He is like the Orthodox Christian who mumbles through the Lord's Prayer and then goes forth to do exactly as he would not be done by in business, social, and domestic life. Man is what he thinks. not what he says, reads, or hears. By persistent thinking, you can undo any condition which exists. You can free yourself from any chains, whether of poverty, sin, ill health, or unhappiness. If you have been thinking these thoughts half a lifetime, you must not expect to batter down the walls you have built in a week or a month or a year. You must work and wait and grow discouraged and stumble and pick yourself up and go on again. You cannot in an hour gain control over a temper which you have let fly loose for 20 years. But you can control it eventually and learn to think of a burst of anger as a vulgarity like drunkenness or profanity, something you could not descend to. If you have allowed yourself to think despondent thoughts and believe that poverty and sickness were your portion for years, it will take time to train your mind to more cheerful and hopeful ideas. But you can do it by repeated assertions and by reading and thinking and living the beautiful new thought philosophy. Optimism. Not long ago, I read the following gloomy bit of pessimism from the pen of a man bright enough to know better than to add to the mental malaria of the world. He said, "Life is a hopeless battle in which we are foredoomed to defeat, and the prize for which we strive to have and to hold, what is it? A thing that is neither enjoyed while had, nor missed when lost. So worthless it is, so unsatisfying, so inadequate to propose, so false to hope, and at its best so brief, that for consolation and compensation we set up fantastic faiths of an aftertime in a better world from which no confirming whisper has ever reached us out of the void. Heaven is a prophecy uttered by the lips of despair, but hell is an inference from history." This is morbid and unwholesome talk which can do no human being any good to utter or listen to. But it can depress and discourage the weak and struggling souls who are striving to make the best of circumstances, and it can serve to suicide the hand of some half-crazed being who needed only a word of encouragement and cheer to brace up and win the race. This is the unpardonable sin, to talk discouragingly to human souls hungering for hope. When the man without brains does it, he can be pardoned for knowing no better. When the man with brain does it, he should be ashamed to look his fellow mortals in the eyes. It is a sin 10 times deeper dyed than giving a stone to those who ask for bread. It is giving poison to those who plead for a cup of cold water. Fortunately, the remarks above quoted contain not one atom of truth. The writer may speak for himself, but he has no right to speak for others. It is all very well for a man who is marked with smallpox to say his face has not one unscarred inch on the surface of it, but he has no premises to stand upon when he says there is not a face in the world which is free from smallpox scars. Life is not a hopeless battle in which we are doomed to defeat. Life is a glorious privilege, and we can make anything we choose of it if we begin early and are in deep earnest and realize our own divine powers. Nothing can hinder us or stay us. We can do and be whatsoever we will. The prize of life is not a thing which is neither enjoyed while had nor missed when lost. It is enjoyed by millions of souls today, this great prize of life. I for one declare that for every day of misery in my existence, I have had a week of joy and happiness. For every hour of pain, I have had a day of pleasure. For every moment of worry, an hour of content. I cannot be the only soul so endowed with the appreciation of life. I know scores of happy people who enjoy the many delights of earth, and there are thousands whom I do not know. Of course, life is not missed when lost, because it is never lost. It is indestructible. Life ever was and ever will be. It is a continuous performance. It is not worthless to the wholesome, normal mind. It is full of interest and rich with opportunities for usefulness. When any man says his life is worthless, it is because he has eyes and sees not, and ears and hears not. It is his own fault, not the fault of God, fate, or accident. If every life seems at times unsatisfactory and inadequate, it is only due to the cry of the immortal soul longing for larger opportunities and fewer limitations. Neither is life false to hope. He who trusts the divine source of life shall find his hopes more than realized here upon earth. I but voice the knowledge of thousands of souls when I make this assertion. I know whereof I speak. All that our dearest hopes desire will come to us if we believe in ourselves as rightful heirs to divine opulence and work and think always on those lines. If no whisper has ever reached us out of the void, confirming our faith in immortality, then 1/3 of the seemingly intelligent and sane beings of our acquaintance must be fools or liars. For we have the assertion of fully this number that such whispers have come, besides the biblical statistics of numerous messages from the other realm. As it was in the beginning, is now, and shall be evermore, world without end. Amen. Preparation. Every day I hear middle-aged people bemoaning the fact that they were not given advantages or did not seize the opportunities for an education in early youth. They believe that their lives would be happier, better, and more useful had an education been obtained. Scarcely one of these people realizes that middle life is the school time for old age, and that just as important an opportunity is being missed or ignored day by day for the storing up of valuable knowledge which will be of great importance in rendering old age endurable. Youth is the season to acquire knowledge. Middle life is the time to acquire wisdom. Old age is the season to enjoy both, but wisdom is far the more important of the two. By wisdom I mean the philosophy which enables us to control our tempers, curb our tendency to severe criticism, and cultivate our sympathies. The majority of people after 35 consider themselves privileged to be cross, irritable, critical, and severe because they have lived longer than the young, because they have had more trials and disappointments, and because they believe they understand the world better. Those are excellent reasons why they should be patient, kind, broad, and sympathetic. The longer we live, the more we should realize the folly and vulgarity of ill temper, the cruelty of severe criticism, and the necessity for a broad-minded view of life, manners, morals, and customs. Unless we adapt ourselves to the changing habits of the world, unless we adopt some of the new ideas that are constantly coming to the front, we will find ourselves carping, disagreeable, and lonely old people as the years go by. The world will not stand still for us. Society will not wear the same clothes or follow the same pleasures or think the same thoughts when we are 80 that we are prevalent when we were 30. We must keep moving with the world or stand still and solitary. After 30, we must seize every hour and educate ourselves to grow into agreeable old age. It requires at least 20 years to become well educated in book and college lore. If we begin to study at 7, we are rarely through with all our common schools, seminaries, high schools, and colleges have to offer under a score of years. the education for old age needs fully as many years. We need to begin at 30 to be tolerant, patient, serene, trustful, sympathetic, and liberal. Then at 50, we may hope to have graduated with honors from life's school of wisdom and to be prepared for another score or two of years of usefulness and enjoyment in the practice of these qualities. Instead of wasting our time in bemoaning the loss of early opportunities for obtaining an education, let us devote ourselves to the cultivation of wisdom, since that is free to all who possess self-control, willpower, faith, and perseverance. Begin today at home. Be more tolerant of the faults of the other members of your household. Restrain your criticisms on the conduct of your neighbors. Try and realize the causes which led some people who have gone wrong to err. Look for the admirable qualities in everyone you meet. Sympathize with the world. Be interested in progress. Be interested in the young. Keep in touch with each new generation and do not allow yourself to grow old in thought or feeling. Educate yourself for a charming old age. There is no time to lose. Dividends. Our thoughts are shaping unmade spheres, and like a blessing or a curse, they thunder down the formless years and ring throughout the universe. The more we realize the tremendous responsibility of our mental emanations, the better for the world and ourselves. The sooner we teach little children what a mighty truth lies in the Bible phrase, "As a man thinketh, so is he," the better for future generations. If a man thinks sickness, poverty, and misfortune, he will meet them and claim them all eventually as his own. But he will not acknowledge the close relationship. He will deny his own children and declare they were sent to him by an evil fate. Walter Atkinson tells us that he who hates is an assassin. Every kindergarten and public school teacher ought to embody this idea in the daily lessons for children. It may not be possible to teach a child to love every neighbor as himself, for that is the most difficult of commandments to follow to the letter. But it is possible to eliminate hatred from a nature if we awaken sympathy for the object of dislike. That which we pity we cannot hate. The wonderful intelligence which set this superb system of worlds in action must have been inspired by love for all it created. So much greater in magnificence, so much perfection of detail could only spring from love. Whatever is out of harmony in our little world has been caused by man's substituting hate and fear for love and faith. Every time we allow either hate or fear to dominate our minds, we disarrange the order of the universe and make trouble for humanity and ourselves. It may be a little late in reaching us, but it is sure to come back to the mind which sent forth the cause. Every time we entertain thoughts of love, sympathy, forgiveness, and faith, we add to the well-being of the world and create fortunate and successful conditions for ourselves. Those too may be late in coming to us, but they will come. Right thinking is not attained in a day or a week. We must train the mind to reject the brood of despondent, resentful, fearful, and prejudiced thoughts which approach it, and to invite and entertain cheerful, broad, and wholesome thoughts instead, just as we overcome false tones and cultivate musical ones in educating the voice for singing. When we once realize that by driving away pessimistic, angry, and bitter thoughts, we drive away sickness and misfortune to a great extent, and that by seeking the kinder and happier frame of mind, we seek at the same time success and health and good luck, we will find a new impetus in the control of our mental forces. For we all love to be paid for our worthy deeds, even while we believe in being good for good's sake only. And nothing in life is surer than this. Right thinking pays large dividends. Think success, prosperity, usefulness. It is much more profitable than thinking self-destruction or the effort of self-destruction, for that is an act which aims at an impossibility. You can destroy the body, but the you who suffers in mind and spirit will suffer still and live still. You will only change your location from one state to another. You did not make yourself. You cannot unmake yourself. You can merely put yourself among the spiritual tramps who hang about the earth's borders because they have not prepared a better place for themselves. Suicide is cheap, vulgar, and cowardly. Because you have made a wreck of a portion of this life, do not make a wreck of the next. Mend up your broken life here. Go along bravely and with sympathy and love in your heart, determined to help everybody you can and to better your condition as soon as possible. Men have done this after 50 and lived 30 good years to enjoy the results. Do not feel hurt by the people who slight you or who refer to your erring past. Be sorry for them. I would rather be a tender-hearted, reformed sinner than a hard-hearted model of good behavior. I would rather learn sympathy through sin than never learn it at all. There is nothing we cannot live down and rise above and overcome. There is nothing we cannot be in the way of nobility and worth. Royalty. We get what we give. I have never known this rule to fail in the long run. If we give sympathy, appreciation, goodwill, charitable thoughts, admiration, and love, we receive all these back from humanity in time. We may bestow them unworthily, as the sower of good seed may cast it on a rocky surface, but the winds of heaven will scatter it broadcast, and, while the rock remains barren, the fields shall yield a golden harvest. The seed must be good, however. If I say to myself without any real regard for another in my heart, I want that person to like me, I will do all in my power to please him. I need not be surprised if my efforts fail or prove of only temporary efficacy. Neither need I feel surprised or pained if I find by and by that other people are bestowing policy friendship upon me, actions with no feeling for a foundation. No matter how kind and useful I make my conduct toward an individual, if in my secret heart I am criticizing him severely and condemning him, I must expect criticism and condemnation from others as my portion. We reap what we sow. Some harvests are longer in growing than others, but they all grow in time. Servility in love or friendship or duty is never commendable. I do not believe God himself feels complimented when the beings he created as the highest type of his workmanship declare themselves worthless worms, unworthy of his regard. We are heirs of God's kingdom and rightful inheritors of happiness and health and success. What monarch would feel pleasure in having his children crawl in the dust, saying, "We are less than nothing, miserable, unworthy creatures"? Would he not prefer to hear them say proudly, "We are of royal blood"? We ought always to believe in our best selves, in our right to love and be loved, to give and receive happiness, and to toil and be rewarded. And then we should bestow our love, our gifts, and our toil with no anxious thought about the returns. If we chance to love a loveless individual, To give to one bankrupt in gratitude, to toil for the unappreciative, it is but a temporary deprivation for us. The love, the gratitude, and the recompense will all come to us in time from source, or many sources. It cannot fail. Heredity. American parents, as a rule, can be put in two extreme classes. Those who render the children insufferably conceited and unbearable by overestimating their abilities and overpraising their achievements, and those who render them morbid and self-depreciating by a lack of wholesome praise. It is rare indeed when we find parents wise and sensible enough to strengthen the best that is in their children by discreet praise, and at the same time to control the undesirable qualities by judicious and kind criticism. I heard a grandmother not long ago telling callers in the presence of a small boy what a naughty, bad child he was, and how impossible it seemed to make him mind. Wretched seed to sow in the little mind, and the harvest is sure to be sorrow. I have heard parents and older children expatiate on the one stupid trait and the one plain feature of a bright and handsome child, intending to keep it from forming too good an opinion of itself. To all young people, I would say, cultivate a belief in yourself. Base it on self-respect and confidence in God's love for His own handiwork. Say to yourself, I will be what I will to be. Not because your human will is all-powerful, but because the divine will is back of you. Analyze your own abilities and find what you are best fitted to do. Then set about the task of doing your chosen work to the very best of your ability, and do not, for an instant, doubt your own capabilities. Perhaps they may be dwarfed and enfeebled by years of morbid thought, but if you persist in a self-respecting and self-reliant and God-trusting course of thinking, your powers will increase and your capabilities strengthen. It is no easy matter to overcome a habit of self-depreciation. It is like straightening out a limb which has been twisted by a false attitude or correcting a habit of sitting round-shouldered. It requires a steady and persistent effort. When the depressing and doubtful thoughts come, drive them away like malaria breeding insects. Say, this is not complimentary to my Maker. I am His work. I must be worthy of my own respect and of that of others. I must and will succeed. End of these chapters. Let's move on. But before we do, please take a minute, hit that like button. If you like what you hear here and what you see in the channel, I encourage you, subscribe and share it with your friends. And I'll be at the next video with some other good chapters, such as the object of life, wisdom, and self-conquest.